Hi, I'm Melissa Etter, one of the AC librarians, and in this video I'll talk to you about an effective way to take notes following the Cornell style. In the 1940s, a Cornell law school professor wondered why so many of his students were failing their exams. Law school students are known for being exceptional students, so the poor test performance surprised the professors and led to the development of a better way for students to take notes. This Cornell note-taking style can be applied while taking notes during an in-person lecture, as well as when taking notes while reading a textbook. When used by the Cornell students, it resulted in dramatic improvements in their grades. It's so effective because it requires note-takers to really think about what they're learning, to organize the information, and to summarize it. It's also an excellent study aid for exams because of the way it's formatted, which allows you to quiz yourself when studying. You can buy Cornell note paper. Here's something I found on Amazon, and there are other varieties as well. Or you can just draw your own line down a piece of regular paper, making the column on the left a little bigger. In the main part of the page over here, take notes according to your own style, but don't write down every single word. Notes aren't supposed to simply be a repeat of the textbook or every word your instructor says. In an in-person lecture, you probably won't be able to keep up with your instructor if you try to write down every word. Get rid of all of the unimportant words like a's, ands, and these. Use abbreviations, and use images and symbols. So if I had been a student trying to take notes over what I just went over, I would not have written, "Notes aren't supposed to be a repeat of the textbook or every word instructor says. Get rid of unimportant words like a's, ands, and these. Use abbreviations, images, and symbols." Instead, I would have jotted down, not verbatim, no useless words, abbrev, draw, symbols. And at the top of the page, I would have written Cornell Notes. When you get to the classes within your major, you'll start hearing the same terminology again and again, so you should be able to develop your own shorthand. As a psychology person, in my notes, I always used BEH period for behavior, behavioral, behaviorism. PERS period always meant personality. Come up with your own abbreviations so that you'll be able to keep up with a lecture, or if taking notes from your textbook, you won't end up with incredibly long notes that aren't as easy to use because the one important piece of information you need will end up getting buried in all of those pages. In an in-person class, if you're provided with PowerPoint slides that your instructor will use in the lecture, don't waste your time writing down information that appears in those slides. You have that to refer to later. Focus instead on writing down what your instructor is actually saying, which, unless you're recording the lecture, will not be preserved if you don't note it. Most instructors provide a lot more detail verbally than they do on their PowerPoint slides, which are meant to just be brief outlines to help guide their lectures. So you'll need to make sure that you focus on taking notes on everything extra that's said. After you've taken your notes over here, you'll start using the column over here on the left. You need this column to be a little bigger because according to the Cornell system, this is where you'll write down questions you have, maybe something you just heard your professor say or that you just read in your book doesn't quite make sense to you. You should also write down questions you think might be on the exam, and write down the headings or vocabulary terms for what appears over here in your notes section. So here's an example. Over here in the right column, I've taken some notes from my textbook on correlation, a research technique. You can see the image of the textbook section down here. Now I need to organize my notes. I'll put this term of correlate here because this is what I'm defining on the right. Same with these other terms for correlation coefficient, positive correlation, and negative correlation. Now as you get better with the Cornell method, you should be able to get in the habit of putting all of the terms or headers over here on the left before you define them on the right. But also put questions over here on the left that you think might be on the exam. Maybe this would be a question. If a correlation coefficient is 0, what does that tell us about the two behaviors? I find it helpful to include the page numbers from the textbook in this column as well, especially if you're allowed to use your notes and book when taking exams. And I even would do that if I was using the Cornell note style to take notes while in the lecture. Later, I would go refer to my book and include the page numbers here in this column. Don't skip this process of using this left column, because this is one of the reasons why the Cornell note-taking method is so effective. This is requiring you to use your head, to really think about this content, to analyze and process this information on a deeper level. Also, by using this left column, you're creating an excellent study guide for upcoming exams. You can simply cover up all of your notes in the middle of the page and go down this left column quizzing yourself. The best way to prepare for an exam is not to just read the textbook or read through your notes. The best way is to actually quiz yourself and challenge yourself to come up with the answer. If you don't remember the answer, fine, look at and read through your notes over here. But the more you challenge yourself to recall the information, the more likely you'll be able to remember it come test time. Down at the bottom of the page you'll see this section, which is meant for you to summarize what you just took notes about. If you do this for every single page, it might help you later find answers when taking open book, open note exams. You might want to highlight or color code terms or main ideas to draw your eye. Some people, though, prefer to just summarize every few pages, maybe after finishing a section in the textbook. But make sure that you do this activity of summarizing as often as you can. This is another way that you process the information on a deep level. You actually have to use your brain to create the summary, and that helps you learn the material. And if you're not able to create a quick summary, that should tell you that you really weren't paying close attention to what you were writing up here, or that you just don't understand the information well at all and need to get a better grasp of it. When you write this summary, don't go look at your textbook and just copy information from it. The point of this is that you're trying to explain it to yourself. That's the deep processing aspect that will help you learn and is what will show you if you don't really understand this information at all. What about plagiarism? If you're taking notes from your textbook, do you have to paraphrase and change the wording so that you don't commit plagiarism? In notes, even if you turn them in for a grade, it's not considered plagiarism to use exact phrases and wording. In fact, sometimes you might want to copy wording verbatim, since exam questions often come directly from test banks provided by the textbook publisher. You want to learn that exact wording. Now, if you're reading your textbook or a research article in preparation to write your own paper, then you might actually prefer to use your own words and paraphrase while taking your notes. That's actually a recommended strategy to help you avoid plagiarism. Read the original source, then put it aside and take your own notes over what you read, as if you're trying to explain to someone else what it was all about. That's just like the process you go through when writing those summaries at the bottom of your Cornell notes. Use your own words when taking notes, then when you start writing your paper, refer to your notes, not the original source, since your notes are in your own words. One last thing, I've shown you examples using a computer and typing notes, but research has also shown that for most people, taking notes by hand is more effective in helping you learn the material and commit it to long-term memory. So understand that all of the techniques I showed you can be applied to handwritten notes as well. Okay, that's it for this video. If you have any additional questions about any of this, you can Google Cornell note-taking and find helpful guides. We've created other information to help you avoid plagiarism as well. Or just come talk to one of us in the library and we can help you with all of these strategies. Now go take better notes.